Welcome to another edition of the CEO's Vlog. John, it's been a really busy week, but look, we're well and truly moving forward with the whips here in New South Wales.
Yeah, to give you a little recap, Amanda, I think Harness Racing New South Wales has been the leader in this space. Certainly the board, Rod Smith, has taken it up, and we realised, of course, that there probably couldn't be a complete removal of the whips, so we've worked hard. We've had quite a few meetings with the UHRA and the local participants. That grew to the fact that we were able to call all the states together here at Tabcorp Park Menangle, and that progressed well, and we've moved it along quite a bit through the chief executives at Harness Racing Australia, the executive of Harness Racing Australia. But I really think the best person, because he's been a driver behind this as well, is Graham Locke. So we might leave that to Graham Locke to deliver on where we are with the whips right now.
Graham, thanks for joining us. So would you be able to give us an update where we're at with whips here in racing in New South Wales?
Yes, Amanda, I think when John Dumsney last spoke on the whips, he indicated that there'd been a successful meeting which took place on Wednesday, the 12th of July at Menangle, and that had some interstate representation, as well as our own UHRA and other interested parties. There was good feedback from the industry on that occasion. The next meeting occurred on Wednesday, the 19th of July, and that meeting occurred with the UHRA here in New South Wales. And the consequences, if you like, of the meeting the previous week was discussed, and Harness Racing New South Wales' position as far as the whip's concerned was, I guess, put in concrete as a consequence of that. So on the 20th of July, the CEO, John Dumsney, participated in a national hookup with the CEOs of other controlling bodies, and Harness Racing New South Wales' perspective was put to those people. It's while it's being promoted, Amanda, as Harness Racing New South Wales' position, it is Harness Racing New South Wales Board's position also that, where possible, it become as uniform as it can be within Australia. So the following week, I think it was on Tuesday, the 24th or 5th, our director, Rod Smith, attended a meeting of the HRA directors in Melbourne, I assume, and Harness Racing New South Wales' position was then put to those people. My understanding at the moment is it's back at the states being discussed and their position formulated before the the HRA directors meet again to fully understand and form a position nationally.
Okay, so we'll just backtrack a bit. That initial meeting where it had representatives from all over Australia, that also included drivers that took part in obtaining vision of their current.
Yeah, there were two aspects to the day, Amanda. The first one, as John explained, was a meeting involving representatives. I think all states were represented. There were drivers from Queensland. Peter McMullen was from Queensland, Barry Rattray from Tasmania. We had our own local drivers. There was Greg Sugars from Victoria. We had the Chairman of Stewards from Barbara Scott from Western Australia, Nick Murray from Victoria, Ross Neal from South Australia, and we also had Larry Wilson from Queensland, Adrian Crowther from Tasmania. So there was a good representation of those people, and additionally there was owners' representatives from both Tasmania and Victoria. So I think there was a board representative also from Queensland. So there was a good cross-section of people. There was very constructive debate and commentary, and if I had to select two in particular, I felt Greg Sugars and Peter McMullen were outstanding in their contributions. We also had Josh Turnbull, who is our biggest breaker here in New South Wales. So Josh would break in 100 horses a year, and his contribution was valued. The meeting started with Josh's contribution. So there was some excellent work done at that level. And then in the afternoon, we met with some of the local drivers. There was a good turnout, and those people were given the opportunity to sit in a cart, unfortunately with a stationary horse, but to try and understand what we were trying to do is, in prescribing a wrist-only action, a flicking motion, were we limiting or was it possible, I guess, first of all, for the drivers, and secondly, could that be undertaken without any great movement of the elbow or the shoulder? And we think that can be achieved. it's understood that there'll be in some drivers, some movement of the elbow, and that's something we'll work through with drivers, and there'll be instructions issued to our stewards in that respect. But predominantly the action that we're prescribing, Amanda, is holding a rein in each hand, using the whip with a flicking motion and a wrist action only.
Okay, so where to next?
Well, we're waiting for the feedback, I guess, from the other states and HRA, and I'm not sure, as you'd be aware, there's an exodus to the World Driving Championship and the World Trotting Council, and I guess when those two events are over, the HRA representatives will turn their mind back to things like the local domestic issues, being the whip rules.
Because originally the set date was have whip-free racing by September 1, if I'm correct.
I think we're past that, Amanda. That's only a personal view. It's not something I've discussed with the board. We've started to counsel our drivers locally that where we feel there's necessary to say to them they're using too much shoulder, they're trying to use too much force, they're using too much of an elbow, that they need to get to a flicking action with the wrist only. So that education, if you like, is commenced, but I think some of the feedback that was taken from the Menangle meeting was that an educational process is essential. That probably seems a little strange to some people, given that we've been dealing with whip rules probably since about 2009 or thereabouts, so nearly 10 years. Look, I think the biggest thing I could say, Amanda, is that there needs to be a commitment by the industry to understand what the rule is and to prescribe to it, because the second aspect of it is that HRA are also being asked to look at a penalty structure which has some consistency across Australia. The proposal of Harness Racing New South Wales is that we retain a similar structure to what we've got at the present time, and that would be that a first offence is a fine of $200, a second offence would be a fine of $400, a third offence would be a suspension of licence for 14 days, and there's a 60-day or 60-drive reset at the present time. So if there's no offence for 60 days or 60 drives, then the driver arrives with a clean slate. In addition to the 200 and 400, however, there's a view that there needs to be a more robust penalty prescribed, and I must say that initially came from the UHRA. However, Harness Racing New South Wales, in looking at a more robust penalty structure, were mindful that once we get out of the metropolitan area and the Class 3 clubs, or C-grade clubs, that basically we're racing for not a lot of money, and the $200 might be a minimum penalty in those circumstances, but if we're racing for $30,000 at Menangle on a Saturday night, then perhaps the penalty should be higher. And what is presently being proposed is a 3% first offence. So in other words, if there's a $15,000 first prize at Menangle on Saturday night, the penalty in that race would be $450, being 3% of the winning prize money, and for a second offence would be 6% of the winning prize money. So there is quite a hefty tariff involved, and we would hope that would encourage participants to be mindful of their commitment to the rule.
Well, that was very interesting, John, and is that all we've got for the CEO's blog this week?
Certainly, Graham Locke can certainly deliver a message, so we've taken up our time for this week, Amanda, but thank you.
Thanks for joining us.